What is up, Wizards fans? Welcome to another Believe in Wizard podcast. I'm Matt Modderno. He's Jahadi White. I think there's some actually interesting off-court stuff to talk about here with the Wizards. We're going to talk about the playoffs a little bit, all that good stuff. But just first of all, Jahadi, how's it going? Doing some AAU coaching already? How the boys looking? How'd the tournament go? All that stuff.
Life's good. Life's good. AAU started. That's kind of the most exciting part of the year, especially for the
Sure.
boys. Get to travel, get to play against the best in the world.
Mhm.
Especially when you're playing in those apparel leagues, the Nike EYBLs, and all that. So, um, coaching is good. So far, so good. We just had a tournament in Memphis last our
Mhm.
first stop, and we ended up 3-1. So hey,
That's good.
started off well.
Are they U16 right now or U17?
U16.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's probably a pretty competitive field, I would imagine. Anything at that EYBL event in Memphis looked like the top kind of guys were there. So getting out of there 3-1, that's a good weekend.
Yes, especially starting off. So it's all about the team gelling at the right time.
Uh-huh.
Um, Guys really buying in, guys really figuring each other out. Mostly guys creating the chemistry with the other guys and realizing what they can do,
Mm.
um, and then utilizing their strengths and hiding their weaknesses.
Yeah. Did they play any DC area teams like Team Durant or Takeover or any of those teams?
Not this go. We didn't play Durant or Takeover.
Mhm.
We played United, which is
Okay.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
Played CP3. It's
Okay.
probably closest we got to
Gotcha.
the DC area as far as teams.
That's the other thing too. There's so many teams in these different flights too. It's kind of crazy how many good people are out there, and this is just under one shoe banner basically.
It is, man, and these teams are the best of the best. So it's a lot of great players in these areas,
Mm.
and so every team has at least 2 to 3 dynamic players.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, you got to keep doing some scouting for us out there. Keep your eyes peeled for future Wizards. That way, when we get ready to do draft stuff, you'll see these guys before anybody else. So that's
Right.
a good leg
Oh
up.
yeah.
Before we get going, brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside Hard Iced Teas. Also brought to you by Bet Online. It's your number one source for all your betting needs. As always, get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports. You can bet on NBA games unless you're a current NBA player, which we'll talk about here a little bit later in the show. But Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to place all your wagers, including live betting, your favorite casino and card games, available right from your phone. You can use the website or your mobile device to log in and get a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit using our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, just the first thing I want to talk about here are these sort of Wizards layoffs that were first reported. ESPN, Zach Lowe had it. Woj kind of confirmed it later on. One of the local radio hosts, Craig Hoffman, came in and kind of added some color context to it on things he'd heard. But the Lowe tweet originally said the Wizards have let go of a number of staff members, but interim head coach Brian Keefe and assistant David Vanderpool will remain with the franchise. Front office is starting formal search that will include Keefe as a candidate for the full-time job. That piece actually came from Woj. So my first takeaway was like, okay, they're not bringing all these guys back, but the last time there was a coaching change, they kept a certain amount of guys, like legacy guys from the staff, the player development guys. They were the ones doing the workouts pre-draft and all that kind of stuff because those things have started already. But this really, from what I've been able to gather, is everybody that is a coach with this team other than Keefe and Vanderpool. So those kind of guys by themselves at that level, I imagine, are not putting, potential, draft prospects through workouts alone or anything like that. So if you're the Wizards, this is something you need to get like resolved quickly. And this seems like a widespread firing. I've basically confirmed the entire PR staff is gone. There's a whole other like kind of set of guys. It does sound like some of the scouting department has remained. I haven't been able to figure out what that means for Antoine Jameson and Frank Ross, who are kind of the heads of those departments, but going to try to confirm that too. But it's a lot of positions to fill and not a lot of time to do it. And especially things like PR become really important pre-draft. Those are the people that are letting us know who they're bringing in for workouts and all those kinds of things. And all stuff that fans really want to hear updates on that, we're not going to hear about. It's probably partly why we haven't heard anything about coaching searches. I would imagine doesn't mean that coaching interviews aren't happening because it would be weird to be so behind the curve now. Maybe they're interviewing the internal guys first. I don't know, but just Jahadi, what's your sort of initial sense of them just kind of coming in and tearing this thing down to the studs here, at the end of their first year?
Well, what I look at first is they're picking their guys.
Yeah.
Right. These two guys came in with this new, regime.
Mm-hmm.
Right. As far as Keith, that they brought him in, and they brought Dave Vanderpool in.
Yep.
Right. So anybody that they didn't bring in,
mm-hmm.
they're letting go.
Yep.
Right. It's they say this is our thing, and we're picking our guys and we're starting it from scratch. And one thing about this group I'm noticing, they don't put the cart before the horse.
Yep.
So, right, this is definitely premeditated.
Sure. They let people show them what they could do, though, for a year, and then kind of decided based on that too.
True, but I think if you were here before they came, and you're one of those guys that have to show what you can do before a year, you really, really have to not only show that you're good, you have to go above and beyond, show that you're you're a unicorn out here.
You have to keep me, yeah.
Because I think their goal is to get rid of everything in the old Poland, West Senior, God rest his soul, regime. Anybody who's around for all that long time, that's been running it their way, and it's more was a mom and pop family style way.
Exactly. There were multiple people that got let go that were hired by Susan O'Malley. In the 2000s. So it's crazy.
Even a great friend of mine has been a wonder for the Wizards and connected to most of the players, and just a great person. That's even I was surprised she was let go. So it's crazy how many people was let go, and how many of those people who've been around. There was big figments in the organization, and great people in the organization just they let go. And so now you can really see they're saying, no, we're starting from scratch. Anything that used to be here from anywhere else, that anybody else hired, we're letting it go. They have kept a few, but it's not many, and they're trying to wipe a clean slate of the old regime and just get it all out of there. Obviously, from the outside looking in, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, for sure.
So they're starting from scratch, and I don't believe that they don't know who they're bringing in yet.
That's a good point. Yeah, you've got all these guys that came from other places. You've got Schlenk from Atlanta. You've got Dawkins and Winger at certain points were both in OKC. Winger obviously just came over from the Clippers. I would imagine they're pulling their guys from those other stops, and people are kind of moving up a spot or two.
I mean, like I said, they put together a super team upstairs, right? So, they, up top, they got a super team together. It's so many guys that they have that they already want to handpick from each one. Each one of these guys has been a GM or been, basketball ops or been high up in the organizations of winning teams.
Yeah.
They know who their guy that they're going to bring over. Right. They gave him heads up. Hey, once we're going to get this about 2 years, after 2 years, you better be ready to go from this other team, because I'm bringing you over here. So do whatever you got to do to get all your I's dotted, T's crossed, and everything straight, so you can leave that job, leave that position without any bad blood. So I'm sure that's what it is.
Yeah.
So they have to clean the guy. They already know who they're bringing over, and they have to clean the plate to bring as many people over from those other jobs and those other positions that they need here.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, right? You don't let go of this many people unless you've already put thought into who can fill each of those spots, or you do it more office by office, or stagger it kind of. So at least department heads are probably identified, and then those people can go kind of backfill all their own positions. Just a couple comments from the chat here already related to this. Locked on Law said the Wizards front office needed a house cleaning. That happened last year, basically. The front office guys are the ones in place. Those are the super friends, and they've kind of keeping the people around them, I think, intact is what it seems like. Remains to be seen if Wes Unseld Jr. will be retained in the role they promoted him to, but I would very much imagine he's on someone else's bench next year as an assistant coach somewhere else and not in any kind of role with the Wizards. And from what I've been able to gather, Amber Nichols, the Capital City Go-Go GM, is also still being retained, and she's kind of a bright spot or, rising star within the org. So I'm glad to see that. Hockey Dudes 1 said, fire whoever decided to fire Neil Dalal. So that's for anybody not familiar. Neil is the one who commented on the billboard that didn't have Tyus Jones on it. So they revoked his media credential. So the person that made that decision actually is one of the people who has been left go. So Hockey Dudes, you got your wish there. Cameron asked who's going to work out prospects, but why hire guys without a head coach? Yeah, they're not. They're going to start, I think, with the coaching staff. Let whoever they decide is the new head coach bring in his whole staff. So I would expect that process to go pretty quickly, which is why it is weird that we haven't heard much about that yet. You hear every couple of days Charlotte is looking at this guy or JJ Redick's coming in for this interview. Yeah. We've talked about this. I still think Brian Keefe is probably the heavy front runner to just get the job, but it would be short-sighted on their part not to bring in at least a few guys and see if somebody like blows them away at least. And we'll see if that, if you're David Vanderpool, if you want to move on and be a top assistant somewhere else, or if he's a guy that interviews for another head coaching opening. So that's the other risk you run, is that some other team saw both of those guys in action this year and interviews them and steals them away from you. So if you like the guys you have in-house, I probably wouldn't screw around on this too long, or at least maybe they force your hand a little bit there.
Well, I'm sure they called Keefe and Vanderpool into the office and say, hey guys, we're keeping you, you're on board. This is our plans.
Yeah.
This is who we plan to bring in. This is what we plan to do. We're not going to just leave you hanging here just two in limbo, just not knowing what's going on. And so it just wouldn't be professional to leave those guys out there without any information at all. Mm-hmm. Right. So I don't know. They may have to, it was something that they had to keep the mouth shut, and let things play out the way they are. But I can't imagine the front office not talking to both of them and letting them know this is what we're planning on doing.
It's just my assumption here, Jahadi, and I would love your perspective on this, that if either, more so for Keefe, now that he's had the interim job, if he doesn't get that head coaching job, I would very much imagine he's not back here next year as an assistant coach. I just feel like you never see that, where the interim coach is then retained by the new coach. And if you're someone like Keefe, if you're going to be an assistant somewhere, you probably want to be one where there's some sort of potential pathway to a head coaching spot if you don't get one elsewhere. So whether it's a coach on, if I were him, I'd go be like the Lakers assistant coach or something where, somebody that the coach is already on the hot seat a little bit, and you at least have some potential for advancement. So I don't know. Do you think if he's not the head coach, he's also probably not back here?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't come back. The reason I wouldn't, is just, I already have my evaluation process.
Exactly. They don't want you to be the head coach.
I went through my evaluation process and they didn't choose me. Mm-hmm. It lets me know what the organization thinks. Yep. Not saying they think bad of me. They don't think of me good enough to lead the players. Mm-hmm. So then I would have to so I would rather go to an organization with a clean slate.
Sure.
And say, okay, hey, I was a head coach. Hey, here's my numbers. When I came in as a head coach, here's the numbers when I, at the end of the season, how I did, make the team progress some. Mm-hmm. Right. But it'd be tough to go back to the guys who hired me as a head coach after they went through evaluation process, saw everything, right? Also saw how the locker room, the good parts of the locker room that attached to me and attached to my words and listened to what I was saying, and things that may have fallen on deaf ears, because So I would just rather leave and go to another if it was me. And I'm not saying that's what he's doing because, at the same time, they were loyal enough to give him the opportunity, loyal enough to still keep him around, right? They're not treating him bad, right? But if they don't give him that head coaching job, it says a lot about exactly what level they think he's at.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. It never make no sense asked, would you consider staying as assistant if you got a big raise? I think for someone like Keith, well, yeah, a raise would definitely make that a little more worth considering, but it's also about what other opportunities are out there for you. If there's not a better spot to jump to, then, maybe it's fine. Like you said, they're treating him pretty well, so maybe it is better than coming back. But I've got to imagine he'll kind of have his pick of stuff if he wants to go somewhere else. I think David Vanterpool being back is probably a little more realistic just because he wasn't named interim head coach. He is a well-respected guy. He probably will get interviews for other head coaching jobs. So if he doesn't get one, same thing. I'm sure he'll look at other opportunities to be an associate head coach somewhere or whatever. But I think that's maybe more realistic of the two.
Yeah, but I mean, it depends on what Keith is looking for.
Okay.
Is he looking to go toward to be a head coach or is he looking for money? Sometimes guys, money is everything. Sometimes it's all about my path, right? That if I get a big raise and I'm assistant coach, right? Does that make it tougher for me to become a head coach in the next spot? Also, now if I get a big raise and I'm one of the highest paid assistant coaches, that's going to make it even more tougher for me to go and get another assistant coach job because they're not going to be able to keep my salary the same.
Yeah, you've priced yourself out of other jobs.
I priced myself out. So that can be tough.
Yeah, that's a great point.
But the thing is, once you get a taste of being a head coach, you don't want to go back to being the servant, and not in a bad way.
Sure,
it's just reality. I have friends that's been head coaches of colleges, like top colleges, and now they're assistant coaches.
It's a big shift.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it's more work being an assistant than it is a head.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, you're doing especially at the college level, I think even you're doing all the scouts
doing all
and
the
all
grunt work.
Yeah, exactly.
College level, you traveling. Yeah, it's tough.
Yep.
So you're on the road 24/7 at the college level.
Yep, that's definitely a great point. So I don't know. I hope we just see some movement here in general. Things like PR staff is important. The other thing I worry about selfishly is folks that try to cover this team is these guys came over from Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is sort of notoriously tight-lipped with regard to sharing information. They're usually like the last team or the team that leaks the least amount about who they're working out pre-draft and things like that. So you wonder if Dawkins and Winger have sort of brought that approach over with them from being under Sam Presti. So that would be kind of a bummer because I think on a rebuilding team, hearing who they're working out is like one of the most exciting parts of the summer for you every year. So I don't want to lose out, on access to that insight. So we'll see how that kind of plays out.
I guess the whole point the question you got to ask yourself is, why is OKC so tight-lipped? What's the benefit? Obviously, they did it for a reason, and it's worked for them.
Sure.
So maybe that's now the new way to do things here at Washington, and they see a benefit to it. And as you looking right now, the guys on like us, the people trying to get the information have nowhere to get the information.
Yeah.
But it makes no sense to let all these people go and then be up so close against the line. Right. So the front office is too experienced to do something like this and then start scrambling.
Yeah, they got something cooking for sure.
So it's something cooking, man. They got something brewing.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They got something brewing in the pot, man. We don't know what it is.
It's funny too, because like OKC wants to keep, especially their draft stuff, close to the vest and things like that. But They're also probably one of the more predictable teams every year in the draft. Like you can almost always kind of peg like who's an OKC guy. So you've got an obvious type, and I don't know, maybe they think that's they can zig instead of zagging if people don't have info. But anyway, that'll be just an interesting development over the course of the summer. I think is this team's probably going to have a decent amount of new faces next year in terms of personnel. They're going to add 3 draft picks potentially, and then obviously you've got some free agents. So. I don't know, getting the little nuggets of things to be excited about as a fan in the offseason is always nice. So I hope Woj or Shams or whoever can keep getting us a couple of those things.
Yeah.
Just pivoting a little bit here, I want to answer a listener question here. So Alex asked, from a player perspective, how important is it to have a certain level of camaraderie for players when we're not winning anytime soon? I think we've talked about this a decent amount on the show here before, but I don't know. I think from your experience, right, it was helpful, but not like a deal breaker, right?
A certain amount of camaraderie win. What was the last part?
When we're not winning anytime soon. So is it more important to be like a tight team when you're going to take a lot of L's every year?
When you're not winning, you don't need it to win,
mm-hmm.
but it does cushion the blow when you're not winning.
Gotcha.
Right. So when you're not winning, you can't. It's tougher to look over to somebody and blame when you have a good relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's tougher to look over somebody, and it's easier to go to that person and say, "Hey, we got to come together, right? We have to get together and do this. You're doing this," and saying, "Hey, we gotta." What your mistakes are this.
Mm-hmm.
If we can eliminate those. Come together, do this, look for that back cut, start looking for so-and-so a little bit more. It's when you have a certain amount of camaraderie, it's easier to give information and it's easier to accept information, mm-hmm. right? When you don't, everything comes off as criticism.
Yeah, you could take that the wrong way pretty easily.
Yeah.
That's a good call. Good answer.
And when you don't have a camaraderie in the locker room and things aren't going the wrong way, mm-hmm. everybody ends up going for self. And so now it's just a fall apart, a selfish competition.
Mm-hmm. Everybody breaking the offense to try to get theirs.
Everything is breaking down. So if I see the world's breaking down around me, I'm going to be selfish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's where the good vets are more important too, but that only goes so far, you know.
The vets do it too sometimes.
Right, that's a good point too. Yep. Monumental sports reporter Bijan Todd had a really good article for Monumental this week, just pulling some stuff from Michael Winger, and one of the quotes I thought was interesting from that piece was Winger said, "I promise you that we are so much better now than we were even 3 months ago." And he really talked about how their revamped player development was so big and that was helping them make strides, which is one thing. And that was they brought in a lot of new player development faces last year. So it seems weird that some of those guys are maybe have been let go since then. So I'm curious I think you wouldn't hype up your player development staff if you fired all of them. So that runs a little counter to some of the reports that those guys have been fully cleaned out. So when the dust actually settles here and they list the staff and stuff for like next year, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, who stays and who doesn't. But it was a lot of just, I don't know, GM speak from Winger, like, oh, we've got so much better this year and the record may not show it, but, you know, culture wise, like we really improved and all those things may be true. It was just, and I guess he has to say it. It felt it rang a little hollow after a 16-win season. I guess.
Well, what does he supposed to say?
No, exactly. There's no
development guys suck. Like so and so is terrible. Like we can't. Like, at the end of the day, the fans want good information.
Yep.
The Wizards are in the business of winning, but they're also in the business of selling hope.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So, as a GM, a big part of your job is keeping people enthused.
Sure.
Enthusiastic about the upcoming season, enthusiastic about the new moves, enthusiastic to stay on. Like, we have to put butts in the stands.
Yep. Exactly.
right? So he's doing his PR job, but also obviously they're doing the job behind the scenes. Look, man, I saw a lot of good people go, and it's
that sucks, but
it's hurting. But I know they're going to land on their feet because they've been they've been in the league a long time,
right?
And they're big figments in the league to where they're going to land on their feet and still be at one of the top jobs. If it's not with another team, it'd be for the NBA, the actual NBA offices, NBPA somewhere, because they're that needed. They make they move the needle.
Yep.
But on the same token, I've never seen a front office come in and just wipe everybody out.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So you like, ooh, you like, oh, they're really about changing things.
Yeah.
Like this thing's going to get ran like a fine company. They're going to come in here and run this thing like Apple. Maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you're like, let's see what really happens here. Let's see what's about to happen.
We've talked about this before.
Now people have to, your job is all about you executing and about what you're doing. They brought in guys, as you said, they brought player development guys in last year.
Yep.
Every single person was under a strict evaluation.
Yep.
Obviously. And you had a year.
Right.
Now, did you know it? Maybe, maybe not.
Sure.
But now you know. So anybody coming in will say, hey, this is how it went.
Yep. No, that's exactly it.
That's kind of interesting to see how this is going to turn out. Right? It's also interesting to see, hey, it's a new day. It's a new Wizards. It's a new day.
Yep. And
that's hopeful.
I think that's really more the takeaway than like our player development was so like, hey, you will be accountable here. Like nobody will just coast. And that's setting the tone for like everyone who comes in here now has seen that. They come in knowing that they're, replacing a whole department of people that got cleaned out. And if you don't, at every level of the organization, if you don't kind of do what you're supposed to, like you run the risk. It's not, well, you're a friend of so-and-so and you got hired 20 years ago, so we're going to keep you around for forever. And that's not to say that all of those people are bad at their jobs, but also sometimes you got to change with the times. And a lot of times some just fresh voices are needed. And what they were doing sort of organizationally didn't work. And that was one of the things I think was most frustrating was last year I was like, all right, they kept so many of these people. And it wasn't just that they were bad on court. The Wizards were failing off court. And I think these guys have now said, we noticed that, we acknowledge that, and that won't fly here anymore. And to me, that's more exciting than some of these quotes. And by the way, like he's not wrong. The player development probably was the bright spot of the year. Like Deni got better. Corey Kispert got better. Johnny Davis, maybe not so much, which is a bummer, but now there's some off-season videos of him shooting the ball well again. So we'll see if any of that kind of carries over. But Coulibaly held up defensively in a rookie year. Like there were some on-court positives. So I'm not mad at him for saying that necessarily, but I also think you do the fans a little bit of a disservice when you don't sort of mix in. It's like sandwich technique, right? You say something positive, you throw in, here's where we got to do a little bit better. And then you throw something positive in again. There was just all kind of fluff. And I don't know, you only learn so much from all fluff, I think.
Well, then you also pretty much now like take his words with a grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly.
After a while. All right.
There's only so much. Yeah, we're going to get.
Right. Like, okay, he's only going to give us the beautiful.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. He's going to paint it, put some sparkles on it and say, hand it to you. Yep. So, but then they also say, all right, now you might have to ask tough questions.
And they're also telling you a lot without having to say it too, right? The firing does that. We talked before about Keefe coming in and benching Jordan Poole. That was like the NBA equivalent of a landmark firing. This is a real business equivalent of a landmark firing when you just wipe the board clean. So, you send a message to everybody with that too. So we'll see what that means going forward, I guess. A couple other bright spots, just a few stats I thought were interesting. Top 10 teams in rim field goal percentage. The Wizards were third in the league. So they were really effective at scoring around the rim. 3-point percentage, probably not as great as you would want, but in a league that everybody talks about analytics is shots at the rim and threes. Like they got half of that settled already. I tweeted this out when I saw that tweet last night about just Daniel Gafford was a big part of that. When a guy shoots 70% around the rim, that obviously helps your percentages. And Dallas was also, they finished second right ahead of Washington, and that's where he ended up. So I don't think that's a coincidence, but as people sort of astutely reminded me immediately after too, Corey Kispert was really good. Like he was elite around the rim this year, and that's not something I expected from him. So that's a cool thing. It's a place to start with from the team. Now you add some shooting, you work your way out a little bit, and if shots are easier around the perimeter and you have better spacing, they'll get better around the rim too. So if you shot that well around the rim without elite floor spacing, that says a lot. And I think, if you improve the floor spacing too, that'll get better too. So I think that's another sort of rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing. So yeah, hopefully they can add a couple more shooters here too.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the NBA is now. Mm-hmm. No one's taking 15 footers.
Yep.
Right. Not a lot of people are taking 15 footers. So now it's about how efficient are you going to be with going downhill and getting to the basket, or pitching that out to 3-point shooters and being efficient on the outside.
Yeah.
Now, but what I do notice is this. Mm-hmm. Most of these playoff teams, they have a guy who's very good at the 15-foot shot.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, the league is going this way.
Yeah, you need a few guys that can zag, though.
But the winning teams are going 3-point, 15-footer layup. Right? Think about Jalen Brunson.
It's usually their elite guys are the ones that shoot in the midcourt.
Right, Shea. Right, Jalen Brunson, Shea. So, all right, I get it. It's the law of averages and analytics. Right. Sure. Analytics show this. We need to take this. And we don't want a guy to do this. Yeah, but the winning teams are.
Yep. They do it smartly, to your point. Like it's like when Kawhi Leonard is healthy, Jason Tatum, those are guys taking 15-footers and they're the best in the league and they can make them. And that also opens all those other things up for everybody else to take threes and 15-footers. So I think that's a great point. And the Wizards don't really seem to have that kind of guy, and that's somewhere I'd be looking to, is someone to fill that role a little bit more.
Yeah, we need a guy who can get downhill, stop and pop, right? Take that 15-footer. But we also need we need guys who their job is to be a highly efficient 3-point shooter.
Yep.
We're getting you here just for that role.
Right.
We don't need you to do everything else. Right? We need you to move around that perimeter and shoot that ball. Right. So, and that way now we can spread the floor, right? And we get 2 of those types. We get 2, right? Now you can really spread the floor, right? And guys can't really collapse as much. So I think that would help us out. We just get 2 very high 3-point perimeter guys that just shoot only threes.
So this is just my personal theory. Would love your take on it. I think 3-point percentage in a vacuum is a little bit overrated. Volume is really important. Will you take enough of them to make a defense account for you? And then it's also how teams guard you. Like Kyle Kuzma is a low 30% 3-point shooter, but anywhere inside 30 feet when he has the ball, someone is out on him. He has dragged someone away from the paint. They don't sag off of him like he's a 32% 3-point shooter. So it's, if a guy comes in and he can hit 41%, but he only takes 1.5 shots a game, it doesn't do anything for you. So it's got to be people that are not shy about getting them up, and teams guard them as if they're going to get them up. So like I brought in a shooting specialist that plays 8 minutes a game and is only going to take 1 3. That's not the kind of guy they need to be adding. It's someone that can be on the court enough to really make an impact with that 3-point shooting too. And I think that gets lost sometimes.
Yeah, that makes it. That's a good point. Volume is very important, right? Because no matter, but you can't get volume without opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so we have brought some guys in that seem like they can be really good 3-point shooters.
Yep.
Right. And that's what you brought them in for, but you got to give them the opportunity.
Sure. Locked on Law said, okay, but 3-point specialist usually plays 0 defense. And I think that's kind of where I was going, is it can't be a guy that just comes in and only plays a few minutes because he's so bad defensively. You can't keep him on the floor. He's got to be serviceable enough. But also the Wizards aren't guarding anyone anyway. So it's not like a bad defender isn't going to be that much of a drop off from most of the guys getting minutes anyway. So,
I mean, the entire league isn't guarding, but your other than your Miamis and your Celtics or certain teams. But so the defense, our defense isn't as bad as we think, because it's equal than most terrible teams, because most team defense isn't good.
The margin is really small, to your point, in terms of like percentages and net ratings and things like that. Like just being a little bit better.
It's about weapons.
Yep.
It's about weapons, and then being able to play together with your weapons, right? Like it's an offensive game right now. It's about who's going to put up more shots, who's going to be more efficient, who's going to get down the floor the fastest. I mean, now it's about I have to outscore this other team.
Yeah.
Right? How many possessions you get. How many possessions you get in one go on one side of the floor? How many rebounds can we get to now put up a three-point shots, till we make one in one possession. So it's a possessions game now.
Yeah. I think a lot of the better teams, they have a couple like special individual defenders, or this is their lockdown guy or whatever, but it's mostly just guys that are all kind of bought into the same system and principles and are like good team defenders. So, it's one of those things where I think like even a shooting specialist, if he's just not breaking the system defensively and can kind of do what he needs to do, and kind of all guys are acting in concert, I think you can survive that a little bit more now than ever too. You don't see a ton of guys like getting hunted or ISO'd on the wing if they've got like good team strategy around them. And smart coaches defensively are better at masking those things now too, and covering up for certain guys. So we'll see.
Yeah, true.
One of the things that we talked about here with the 3-point shooting is let's see. Lev Akabas from Sportico tweeted this out. All 16 teams that shot above league average from threes won at least 46 games this year. The Wizards were bottom 5 at around 34%, and league average is like 36.5, 37%. So again, not like a ton different. Like 2% doesn't sound like that much, but I think that's a pretty good, clear trend there when, everyone above league average made the playoffs basically, and everyone below league average didn't. So it tells you that, to your point, getting buckets is important. You need offensive weapons, and that's just somewhere where the Wizards have to get better, and we'll see what they do to do that. Now, if they can do that and add good defenders in the process, like cool, I'm all for it. But shooting matters more than ever. So
like you say, 2% isn't that much, but 2% leads to more wins. It's the biggest difference between more wins and where we are now.
Yep.
Right? So, like I said before, it's like you said, it's about how many shots you can get up as well. Right? It's also about the opportunity to be able to do it. Yep. Right? It's not like we're only looking for 3-point shooters and we don't have any. Our 3-point shooters aren't able to get up that many shots because we have, rightfully so, a lot of ball dominant players. You got Deni, you have Poole, and you got Kuzma.
Yeah.
So who's going to be willing to sacrifice to be able to match those statistics to make sure that we pull out some wins?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just look at what all the good teams do, see where you're lacking, figure out those are the trends that win in the league, and try to build around that. Nomadic Brian asked in the chat, could the Wizards build a Nuggets-like team? If they had a generational offensive hub to run everything around like Nikola Jokic, I'm sure that would be a lot easier to do. But I think maybe to the point there, like, you don't look at the Nuggets and say, wow, every one of these guys is a lockdown defender. Like Aaron Gordon is very good. KCP is very good. Jamal Murray's not that great. Porter Jr. is not that great. Jokic is fine. He's big, so he takes up space. But they have a very clear defensive identity, and they've established a way they want to play and where they funnel people and how they're going to guard everyone. And that's how you make that work, I think.
There has to be a ample amount of certain amount of luck.
Yeah, that's a good point.
To be able to create a team like the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Getting
the MVP at 46 in the draft.
The front office of the Nuggets didn't know what they would didn't even know what they were going to get, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
You get Jokic at what, second round?
Yeah.
You don't know what that's coming to turn out to be.
Mm-hmm.
You get Michael Porter Jr. when his back is out of whack, right? Yeah. And you don't even know if he's ever going to be able to play and be the player he was in college before, right? He was just a name. And luckily, who's the Stan Kroenke is the owner of the Nuggets, really the owner of the Nuggets.
Sure.
You know, Porter was a Mizzou guy. Kroenke's a Mizzou guy. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of just kind of helping each other out Nuggets thing too. So that's luck as well. So so many things that fell in place, right? And to work perfectly, right? And then you have a guy like Jokic to where you say, well, let's learn him.
Mm-hmm.
Let's learn all the things he's capable of. So now everybody's playing off Jokic, which Nuggets didn't expect that. The coach, you can't even tell me the coach came in with that game plan at the beginning.
Nope.
He watched him like, oh, this guy played off him. Hold up, let's change this up.
Yeah. You have to have the right people to understand a player like that.
Right.
Too.
You have to understand and say, okay, now we're getting ready to play off Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because he can see everything. He demands people to collapse.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you notice, everything's easy outside of Jokic.
Yep.
Especially for Aaron Gordon. Just sitting in the dunker spot.
Catch some lobs, roll the hoop.
I mean, he got the easiest job. He'll end up with 15 to 20 most times.
Yeah.
Right? So Porter Jr., all you got to do is stand out there and like swing. I got it. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
To those, every role, every guy's job is so easy. Even the point guard, what's his name?
Jamal Murray.
You can't tell me if Jamal Murray was on another team, he'll be working his butt off for 30 every night.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's luck. Like a lot of that is luck. Sometimes you just have so when I was in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows the late great John Thompson, God rest his soul, that how he would play It would be Hoya Paranoia, 40 Minutes of Hell.
Mm-hmm.
Then Allen Iverson comes.
Yeah.
And within week 3 or 4 of the season starting, we seen him throw away half the playbook.
Yeah, you got to adapt. Yeah.
Half the playbook. The play. Then season 5, more the playbook, right? Mm-hmm. So now let's just play off AI.
Yeah.
That's bringing AI in may not have been luck, because we know the story. But then from there on, everything else is just luck falls into place. Sometimes it's not you. So to build a team like the Nuggets, it's going to have to be a lot of the universe on your side, organic, like people.
You need a few breaks.
Type
Honestly.
of players who are willing to work off each other and learn each other, and certain chemistry just tying in. Mm-hmm. So many elements that have nothing to do with coaching.
Yeah.
And luckily, it does have to do with getting the right players in, but these aren't the players because they're not big. Name me a big name player.
Other than Jokic, I mean,
no, that was when they were being drafted. It's not like huge players.
No, yeah. I mean, Murray went 7 or 8. That was kind of the highest one of the group.
See what I'm saying?
Yep. No, they didn't pick number 1 5 years in a row. Doing. Yeah. It's you've got to have great talent evaluation, but you also have to have a coaching staff you're totally in sync with that acknowledges and recognizes the skill of those players, and then they can communicate that back to the front office and say, this is the guy's skills. And then you identify more guys that play off the skills perfectly. And all those guys have to stay healthy, and all those guys have to fit from a salary perspective. And there's so many moving parts you have to get right.
So many moving parts and elements and facets and everything that just got to tie in perfectly.
Yep.
You know, it's tough to put that together. To me, the only part, even the best can't actually put that together like that. They can make it feel and look like that. And, Miami, Pat Riley, just boasters the coaches. So coaches can help that out.
Sure. You can create your own luck to a certain extent, but you still need a little help.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm 100% with you there. All right. Let's little shout out here. We talked about the positives and the bright spots of the season. I think the development and play of Deni Avdija was probably like number 1 on most people's list. I kind of put this out on Twitter the other day of just like, what was your highlight? And I think most people, even if it wasn't the first thing they mentioned somewhere in there the jump Deni took being big, and he got a little love for that. He finished sixth in most improved player voting. Kobe White won the award. Alperen Şengün was 2, Jalen Williams 3, Jalen Brunson 4. I missed somebody in there, I guess. But yeah, Deni finished 6th. He received 1 first place vote, which is pretty cool. And then the Cam Thomases, Jalen Suggs, even Tyrese Halliburton finished behind him for that award. So it's nice to just see him get recognized around the league as just somebody like on the way up. And I hope he can take another jump next year. And now that they've seen what he can do for half a season, let him do it from the start of the season. And maybe he's a guy that can win that award next year.
With a market like the Wizards, and with those teams that not winning a lot, sometimes a lot of things go under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like Koulibaly's play at the beginning of the year, and him being the rookie of the year or being one of the top rookies went under the radar because of the us not having a lot of wins, and then the market and the Wizards haven't been normally a team that the league focuses on like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with that said, to see Deni being acknowledged and everybody saying, it's hard to not acknowledge this guy. Mm-hmm. He stands out beyond all of those things that could
we can't ignore this.
You not to stand out.
Yeah.
Right. So we all know how Deni played this year. I think he's one of he should be in the vote of the most improved player. Absolutely.
Team MVP, I think.
All of that.
Yeah.
But for him to do it against all of the things that could push you away from being acknowledged, lets you know just not only how good he is, but how many people recognize how impactful he has been to this year, right? And how much they saying, hey, this guy, we got to stop. This guy's on the top of our scout report. Mm-hmm. When we walk into the Wizards locker room, he's on the top of the board.
Yep.
When we're going through shoot around, the goal is how to stop Deni. Yep. Which now that makes you one of the top, that now makes you one of those players in the league. Now, he should be mentioned more. We don't see him mentioned when they, on the first takes or the inside the NBAs or the TNTs, but he should be a household name.
On the Bill Simmons podcast before the season, they were clowning the Wizards, and they basically dismissed Deni as like a meh player. And then by the end of the year, I've always loved this guy. I'd love to see him on a good team finally. You guys always know how much I've loved Deni from day one. It was like, okay, cool. Yeah, no one remembers the Wizards segment enough to fact check you on this, but good try, I guess. So
we see that every day with all the reporters, you know. Yeah. One day they against the player, then they're like, "Oh man, you got a great parent. His parents raised him right." They're like, "Oh, now." So anytime you say anything about the player, how great he is, right? Or his parents, or a good guy, or his personality, you're either getting ready to try to make up for all the things you said bad about him, or you're about to say something bad about him.
Right, exactly that. We love him, but
you're right.
Thank you for the correction in the chat here. It never makes no sense. Fact check me on this one. Tyrese Maxey won that award. Sorry, my notes cut off the top part of that. So Kobe White was 2. Tyrese Maxey 1, Kobe White 2, Şengün 3, Jalen Williams 4, Jalen Brunson 5, Deni 6. So thank you. It takes a village on this show. Gotta keep me honest sometimes here. Jahadi, the last thing I want to talk to you about here is just this Jontay Porter story, essentially. For anyone not familiar, one of the younger brothers that play basketball of Denver star Michael Porter Jr. He was on the Raptors this year. He's been banned for life after he placed 13 bets on NBA games using a friend's sportsbook account. He got caught basically disclosing confidential information to bettors, and he limited his own participation in at least one game so that a certain bet would pay out. And that particular bet, they ended up they caught the sniff test there. There were too many weird bets, so it didn't pay out, but it would have won somebody like $1.2 million or something like that. So over the course of those 13 bets, he placed 76,000 worth of bets and won 21,000. But he didn't ever bet on the Raptors to win or lose. It was basically stuff about his own plus or minuses and things like that, which is a little less bad in my opinion, than like betting directly on the outcome of the team. But it's a guy playing garbage time, so it's not like him taking the under on himself really, impacted the game, which is what's worse. But I just want to get your take on this as a former player. Like, ever suspect anybody of point shaving out there, or is this something we're going to see more of now that betting has become a bigger part of sports?
Well, it's always something you heard about. Always something that's been something that kind of they talked about in the locker room today, or like,
sure,
what's up with this guy today? Like, why are they shooting crazy shots, or just doing out of playing completely out of his normal self? Well, so you got to be point shaving. That's the first thing we would say.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it would look like it sometimes, but that's something you don't know.
Yeah.
With this situation, the first thing is it's just a loss all around. Right.
It's a bad look for the league.
You said he betted 76,000, won 20. Yeah. So you lost right there.
Yeah. They would have won. They would have won 1.2 million if the betting site didn't catch on though. So almost got away with it.
Well, right now, as things turned out, he was lost on both ends.
Exactly.
Right. He lost. So what his contract was 2.6 million.
Yeah, something like that, a couple million, and obviously he has no opportunity to make future earnings.
So you lost 2.6 million for betting. So I would say to try to win money with 70,000, exactly. 70,000, give or take, right? And then you lost that. You lost with the 70,000,
right? Yeah.
So you're just losing all across the board. So what's the worth, right? And I like the Porter brothers because I coached
from your area, right?
They're from Missouri, so they're from my hometown. Not from my home state, right up the street. I'm from St. Louis. They're from Columbia, where University of Missouri is located.
Yep.
And I coached against them all the time because they played for MoCan. It's an EYBL team, and Bradley Beal Elite is an EYBL team. So only 2 EYBL teams in Missouri.
Sure.
So it was a big rivalry, and we played against them all the time. So we always be on the plane, flying back to St. Louis or the airport, whatever. So, I coached against Michael Porter Jr. I coached against Jontay. So, their father, is a good guy known in the state, right? So it's sad to see this happen to anybody. It's very sad to see it happen to kids that that I cross paths with a lot, during coaching. But it's even more sad to see how all of those brothers, other than Porter, it's just something's happening to them. Like Jontay, banned from the NBA, Corin Porter, right? Since the 6 years for drunk, like killing a kid for driving drunk. Then now the younger brother, Kevin Porter, just got arrested for a DUI, right? Recently.
Jevon Porter.
Yeah, it's Javon
Porter, that's right.
Yeah, just got arrested for a DUI. So
it's a rough month for that family. Man, that's brutal. Yeah.
Like, imagine that. Yeah. And then Michael Porter still got to go out there and play tough. Like, I pull all my brothers together, though. We're going to get on the phone call or something like, man, y'all got to get y'all shit straight.
Yeah, you're hitting the road with me for a week, and then we're keeping you out of trouble.
You up in, like, we can, because those, you can't work that hard. These guys, anybody that played basketball who's on a mission, like they are. Because one was at Colorado, playing ball at Colorado. The one who got arrested got sentenced.
He was going to Loyola Marymount, but was going to be a good player. He played at Pepperdine last year.
That's the one who got the DUI, right?
Yeah, that's the one who got.
Which one that was sentenced with 6 years?
Oh, I think he might have been Colorado. Yeah,
he was at Colorado.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So the fact that these guys grew up playing basketball, and they grew up, if you grow up playing basketball, you got and two brothers made the NBA. That means I think their mother was also a very good pro. I think was a great college player, right?
Yeah, she hooped at some level. I'm not sure.
Right. So imagine how much they
University of Denver, by the way.
The mother, right?
Coben Porter. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, Denver. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, what I'm saying is these guys sacrificed a lot.
Yeah.
And they sacrificed a lot to be able to now just throw it away.
Yeah, that's rough.
Right? As players growing up playing this game, you're not a normal kid.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do what normal kids do. You sacrifice a good at least 60% of your normal childhood.
Yep.
And now to see, and so that comes from the parents and just putting the time in, and come from the players. So I just hate to see kids like going through all the sacrifice to get where they want to go, and they're on the path and they mess it up like they are. And then you see it from three sons in the same family. It's tough.
Yeah, that's Michael Porter has said some maybe silly stuff publicly, with all the vaccine stuff and things like that, but hasn't done anything, run afoul of the law or anything like that. And I actually really like and respect the way he's kind of handled these things, because he's definitely getting asked about it. It's tough in the playoffs. And
yeah,
he's just said, like, look, want to make sure my brothers get what they need. But I'm focused here on my brothers in this locker room, and they're rallying around me. And it seemed very genuine. So, for his sake, I hope people can kind of knock it off, and I hope the other guys get some help. And it's obviously, if killing someone or killing a woman, I think, while driving a car is just terrible for obviously that family involved too. So just got to get their shit together here a little bit, Porter family.
Yeah. Well, what I do know is, and Michael Porter's playing very well now.
Yeah.
What I do know is the best retreat and takeaway is on that court. When something is happening in the real world, in the outside world, when you finally walk in the doors of that arena, in that locker room, or just practice, nothing exists in that outside world for those moments, those hours that you in.
For sure.
Right. So the happiest place for Michael Porter Jr. right now is on the floor. Yep. As soon as he has to leave that arena and the game is over, he got to go back out to reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could really make you really zone in and focus and with an amount of intensity you never have before in the game, because that's all you got. That's your sanctuary now. Michael Jordan, I've seen it with Michael Jordan all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff going on in people's lives too. Like these guys are people. I think that's an underrated part of this. Like they've got the same family drama we've all got, and all this other kind of stuff. And it's just you
what do you like? Like Damian Lillard said, man, I'm going through a divorce, and my kids are not here. Yep. He don't want to be at home. Home is lonely.
Yep.
I want to be in the locker room and on the court.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything else is just it's real. It's real life.
Yep, for sure. On the betting thing, you played in the same time frame that Tim Donaghy was refereeing games. Do you ever remember him refereeing a Wizards game and think anything sketchy might be going on or anything like that?
I do remember him reffing games, and he never was my favorite ref. Sure. And what I remember with him is a lot of players could not talk to him. Refs usually will let you talk to, you come to. Now, believe in the refs are buttholes. They ain't I won't get fined or nothing now. Yeah. They're buttholes. They think they're the king of the castle. They think they're the dirty police in a tough neighborhood.
Yep.
They're the Denzel Washington in Training Day.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? That's just who they are. Most of them, not all of them.
I love that.
So when you try to talk to them, it may be a day they let you talk to them, and some of them they think you're not high enough on level of the NBA to even speak to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the game, you don't get to talk to me.
Yeah, you're not a perennial all-star.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. But the person who was most like that was Donnie.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe he just didn't want people questioning on call, knowing he was doing some shady stuff on the side. Yeah. That's wild. All right, let's close it with one thing here. Bradley Beal has been in the news a lot for Wizards fans, and they just released a player poll where they voted on most overrated players in the league. Rudy Gobert was the players' vote with 13% of the vote. Jordan Poole finished second. Bradley Beal was like fifth or sixth with about 4% of the votes. He really has struggled in this postseason. And to me, obviously Brad did a lot of on-ball creation and stuff like that for the Wizards, but he was always at his best when someone was kind of setting him up. And they just did not have a single person on that entire roster in Phoenix that could do that. Obviously, he was worse than I think anyone would have expected, but I also feel like they set him up kind of to fail. And there were a lot of like, here, ISO Brad. And it's just, that's, he's obviously gotten so much better at that, but I still not think that's not his sweet spot to me. So just thoughts on Brad's struggles and what you would do if you're the Phoenix GM right now. Do you keep that team together? Do you run it back? Do you try to just find a point guard to go with them? How would you go about it?
Well, Brad's struggles, I feel like they had to understand the type of player Brad is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like they played to his strengths.
Yeah, I agree.
It was more of a take and turn type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now it's Kevin Durant's turn. Now it's Booker's turn. Now it's Brad's turn.
Clear out ISO for each of you.
Right, clear out. And that just doesn't work, especially for Brad. Yeah. That's not the type of player he is. If they played through each other,
mm-hmm.
it would help. It would be better for all players,
mm-hmm.
especially Brad.
Yeah.
So, he didn't have the best season because they was doing a take your turn type of play, which is not how he plays. Mm-hmm. It's more he plays in the movement of the game. He's a guy who likes to move around the perimeter, right? Yep. Penetrate, pitch, kick, boom, and knock it down. That's really his game. If anything, if you took all the facets of his game, that's still the main part of his game. That's the foundation of his game.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't cater to the foundation of his game.
Yep.
But I don't feel like that's the reason Phoenix lost. Brad is the reason Phoenix lost.
Yeah. Poor roster construction in general.
Because they was too top heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You paying Booker, you paying KD, and you paying Brad. And now you can't really even get middle ground role players.
Right.
You got to go get a lot of two-way guys who will pretty much be on two ways.
Yep.
They fill the bench out because there's no more money. It's no more money like to spread out, right? So you can't blame Brad for the way the season turned out. You pretty much was playing 3-on-5 every time.
Mm-hmm.
Now when you're playing 3-on-5, how can you not have an offense that's just about turn taking?
Exactly. Yeah, two people don't have to be guarded the whole game. I mean, it's
yeah. So it would fall on Brad. They got to put it on somebody, but I don't really believe that's really Brad's fault like that.
We would see Brad have like a 60-point game where he was ISO and just cooking people. But in the final couple minutes, when teams decided you will not beat us, one of these other clowns will. Like, we saw Brad struggle to like rise to the challenge in those cases because it was not his game to do against set defenses trying to take that away. And in a playoff game, they're saying, hey, these other two guys, Josh Okogie, will not beat us, so we're just going to leave him open. We'll shade a guy over to Brad, and he couldn't get anything going. And that's, I think it shows, to your point, like the big three era is kind of over. The big two is the move with serviceable guys. If you can get three players for the price of what you're paying one of these other guys, that's the way to do it. And you can't trade Bradley Beal. He's probably the most untradeable player in the league right now, just given the no trade clause and the amount of money and things like that. They're not going to trade Devin Booker, and that leaves Kevin Durant. And do you trade away Kevin Durant after you just like gave out, give up the farm to get him? It would be a really bad look.
You have to go over the salary cap.
So if they even bring Torrey Craig back, or no, who's the wing? Royce O'Neal back next year, they're so far into the second tax apron already, just with those three guys and Nurkic back next year, that they would have just re-signing him would be another $50 million tax bill. So they can't fix this next year and add people without, like, every guy they add will cost them 5 times as much in a tax bill. It's insane.
Really?
They're so stuck.
You have no, and it's almost impossible not to blow. It's hard to blow it up though.
Right, exactly. You're not getting fair value, and you're not getting win
now.
So
you kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because Brad has a no trade clause.
Yep.
What year is KD on his contract?
I think he's got 2 more years after this season.
And so Booker's not going nowhere. So now you're looking at Brad and KD. You really don't want to let go of KD.
Right.
But, KD, he might turn around tomorrow and be like, I'm unhappy here. I want to go.
That's also a good point. Yep. He might make that choice for you. Yeah.
Yeah, he might make the choice for you. So now it's like, that's your only relief if KD doesn't want to be there.
Yep. But then does that make Devin Booker say,
because then you can get at least 3 good players for 1 player.
Sure. But yeah, if I'm Devin Booker though, I'm like, to hell with this. Like,
what? No, yeah, you ain't letting go. Like, I'm fighting for KD too.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, and then with Brad, he has to agree to be traded.
Yep.
But how much value?
You're not getting any near your market value. Yeah.
Right. So really, your only option is KD.
It's one of those things where, like, I was ready for Brad to go by the end too, just more from where the organization was. Like, it was time to reset and move on and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want to see him do poorly. At the same time, with those pick swaps that they eventually owe us, I want Phoenix to be really bad, by 26. So If this whole thing breaks down and they blow it up, that's better for the Wizards. So selfishly, you know, I hope they struggle a couple years from now at least.
Yeah. I don't like to see my friends get.
No, I don't want to see him do poorly.
Brad's my guy, right? You know, obviously,
no, for sure.
You know, a good player, and I do root for him. You root the best for him. You know, I'm just being honest. I do.
No, I totally get it.
But there's going to have to be some major decisions made over there.
Yeah.
And I don't think KD wants to go. You know,
it doesn't seem like it.
I haven't heard as much rumblings as I usually hear when he's on other teams that he wants out.
Yeah.
It's been more quiet, which to me seems like he doesn't want to go, but then you never can read KD. Even with all of that, you still got to have some type of chemistry and some good offense to play. I don't think Phoenix really played the best way they could with the players that they have. You know, so it's a lot. They could have went further with the team they had, just with the guys they have now.
Yeah.
Right? It was just seeing the way they played and the lack of offense. I mean, lack of defense. You know, because, I mean, Kevin Durant pretty much, as bad as things looked in Phoenix as far as losses, he had one of his best years yet. I mean, he averaging 30 this year?
Yeah, I mean, from a numbers perspective,
come on, from a numbers perspective, he had one of his top years.
Yeah.
After Achilles injury.
Yeah.
So Devin Booker had a really good year. So it's not that. So now you got to say, what is it really?
Yeah, they've got to nail their talent evaluation and find a couple of these diamond in the rough type guys on cheap contracts that they can flip. And they tried to do that this year with the Nasir Littles and things like that, and it didn't really work out for them. So to me, I think it would be overreactionary to blow the thing up based on 1 year sample size. These teams never seem to kind of figure it out really the first year. So I think you learn from this, you make some adjustments, and you run it back next year. And if next year doesn't go well, I mean, they're still a playoff team. It's not like they had this disastrous year where they didn't make the playoffs or anything. Like, so to your point, if you figure out how to make the pieces work a little bit better, you'll probably be better than next year anyway.
You got to run it back next. You got it right. And you have no choice but to run it back next year with the same team. You really don't.
Yeah.
You got to stick with the team and say, all right, let's have a lot of meetings this summer. Let's work on a lot of things throughout the year. Yeah, y'all need to go to the set. Who's your trainer? Who's your trainer? Who's your trainer? All right, we got a place out in Colorado.
Yeah, right.
We got 3 courts.
Yeah,
I want all of y'all to be there.
Yeah,
in the same place. That's right. I want all of you working together. Now start working in tandem. So in the end of the day, if they work in tandem, or the coach has to really come up with a better chemistry and a better, offensive set and better team scheme, game plan, just to be able to make this team more effective. You have efficient scoring. You have to play like a team.
Yeah, it's complement them with the right pieces, figure out how to make it all kind of work a little bit better, and I think the results will be a lot better overall.
Right.
All right, partner. That's all I got. Anything else you want to add?
We good, baby. We good.
All right. We got some other cool stuff lined up for you folks, so keep checking in with us. If you're listening right now, hit that like button for us on YouTube. Rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff. You can also find the show on Instagram at Believe in Wizards, on Twitter at Believe in Wizards, and on TikTok at Believe in Wizards. So if you're not following us on social media, do that. We're cutting clips and putting out good content and polls and all that kind of good stuff too. So we appreciate it. As always, we're brought to you by betonline.ag. Catch y'all next time.